My name is Carina Gardner, and I'm what you would call a practical designer. If you're ready to create a life that you love, become an incredible force for good, and generate income while pursuing your dreams, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to Make and Design.
Hi, designers. Today I am here with Stephanie Socha. I am very excited. She's an interior designer who's turned and doing all sorts of fabulous things in the fabric and sewing industry. So we're going to talk about some of those transitions today. We're going to talk about what she's doing. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, Karina. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
This is so fun because I love it when interior design and graphics have kind of this interesting crossover. So tell us a little bit about being in interior design and what made you make the change over and what you're doing now.
Sure. So I actually went back to school to be an interior designer after I have been in the corporate world for a while, and I'm in there like for 20 plus years now. And now I'm just freelancing design. I've got a couple of clients, but I really like in 2008 when the housing crash happened and I was working retail, I got super burned out and I really wanted to get back to sewing and creating and doing things with my hands. And interior design is mostly conceptual. You get to paw, and my favorite part is the fabrics part of it, and it's picking out for upholsteries and stuff like that. But it's you're really focusing on the space planning and just conceptual design. Sewing, quilting, knitting is tactile. So you're making things with your hands. I'm not just specifying to a workroom, make me this, gorgeous whatever pillows and bed coverings. So yeah, I just started to that, and then I just kept on sewing, and then I learned how to quilt 10 years ago. And then I was a listener of podcasts, so I kind of got that bug in my head. And in 2018, I started my podcast, and I've been podcasting ever since and have taken on quilt commission projects, which, it just transforms, it just transitions. So now I'm in courses for teaching online. And it just keeps moving forward. I just attended the H&H Americas show, met a ton of great fabric companies, other creators. There was a content creator summit, so it was great. This is like just really nice to be moving forward in an industry that I love.
Yeah, so good. What would you say your favorite part of it is? Like, what are you actually making on a day-to-day basis that you're like, oh, I love this so much?
It changes, but yeah, because I get into these spurts of making clothing. But recently, really what I super love and I've really been getting into is hand stitching. So hand embroidery, sashiko, English paper piecing. So that really has become a true love of mine in the sewing. And I still love to sew by machine, but that's really what I've been focusing on recently.
No, I love that so much. I want to say it's been 7 or 8 years ago. There's a wonderful designer in Australia who tried to get me into English paper piecing. We were at a conference together, and I was like, I don't know if this is for me. I just don't know if I could do it. So I love that because there are so many people who love the hand stitching piece. I have a daughter who does a lot of hand stitching. It just wasn't for me. So I think that's really fascinating that you've kind of like gone into that hand stitching. What do you think it is about that draws you in?
Well, I was like that before. Like I was all about the machine speed. I loved, like pushing the fabric through, and I never thought I would love hand stitching. And then I just started slowly. And I think really was when I learned hand binding on a quilt and sitting there. It just was sort of like calming and relaxing. And there's something I just learned from one of my other guests on my podcast that when you move both of your hands in like the same, I don't know, like just directions like that, it does something with your brain that sort of soothes you and calms you and helps with anxiety and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, then English paper piecing exploded. These things like become trends.
Mhm.
So then I go to try it, and the more I do it, the more I love it. So
Yeah, I love it. So tell me a little bit about like the business piece of being in this. So you were doing interior, like residential interior design work. How are you
Mhm.
financially able to run a business in this space?
Well, because I am still freelancing interior design and I'm freelancing for another business. So I still have my hand out in other industries while trying to do this and building it up. So it's a lot. Uh, and uh, it's not until, and I listened to your episodes and just the focus that I have to do, because if I'm not cultivating it, there have been a few years where I've just kind of just sailed and haven't done anything for the business. But this past couple of years, I've really kind of like buckled up and decided, if I'm going to make this really a go and I don't want to do the freelance anymore, then I need to, I just need to do it, and not
Yeah.
be afraid of it or thinking that, because then the other thing is just like, oh, who do you think you are coming in here and,
Yeah, I do.
sashaying
Don't you
your,
think a lot of us experience that though? Like so many designers
yeah.
experience that. Who are you to be able to do this? It's so interesting. I just had, I think, I mean, it's been a couple months. So if you guys want to go back and listen to this episode I did with Shelly Ontis, she just barely left her freelance business and is fully digital online. And it is a big leap. I remember when I took that leap, it's been 16 years or so when I took that leap. And it is kind of a huge leap to like go all the way in. So I do love that, and that you are still doing the interior design work because that's what you're clearly really good at. You just kind of at the same time running the side hustle of like the stuff that's your passion, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
So interesting. So what is your main focus in that? Are you doing mostly selling patterns? Are you mostly selling courses?
Um, I I haven't really physically sold anything. My like focus now, because I really didn't know for a while. I was like all over the place. Maybe I want to design fabrics, maybe I want to sell patterns, maybe I want to do this. So now the lens is a little more sharp, but my podcast has been there the entire time. So talking to other creatives and doing this podcast for what now is coming up 7 years has been the business. It has
Yeah.
been it. It has been making relationships in the industry and collaborating with other people in the industry, fabric designers, quilt designers like Crystal Watson. And so more of that is to come. So collaborations are definitely on the list, and then video creating, and then also pattern creating, because
Yeah.
either there's two, there's a few ways you can go. You can just not create your own patterns, but maybe you test pattern for other designers, or you make stuff for other companies and ambassador for them. So I want to just create my own stuff and promote that and carry on.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very interesting because business can go a lot of different ways, right? There's like kind of the affiliate side of things, the collaboration side of things. Then there's the creation of your things, and then like trying to drive the traffic yourself to it. Both are viable. In fact, I've seen both be very viable, like a lot, big money makers for both. I think it's really interesting. You're saying that the podcast really has driven a lot of your business and what you've been doing, especially networks. Do you believe that community and networks are a really important part of business?
It's a huge part. It's something that I really have learned. It's something I had not been comfortable with. I'm an extreme introvert. And so the marketing and the networking have really come along sort of slowly and like fighting it. And again, I reference this H&H because they actually have catered towards these creators, content creators, knowing that we are like this. And they put companies in front of our faces and like actually put us all in a room. And we did this networking sort of speed dating sort of thing. And after that, it was just like, it was a very aha moment for me, and that, what, this is important and I'm uncomfortable, but I have to do it. And it wasn't all bad. Like they didn't all say no.
Yeah. Do you think that's what drives a lot of people to not network? Or they're worried about the no's, like the negativity or like the rejection?
They're worried about the no's, and they're also worried about there's so much emphasis on numbers in and metrics in social media, platforms. And I certainly don't have the numbers, and I never really strived to get them because as a consumer myself, I know that numbers can be inflated anyway, and my numbers are just they grow slowly and they stay there. I don't lose a ton of people at a time. Whereas, when people say, "Oh, follow me, follow them, do this, do that, do what," and then you're just like you're getting the followers, but are you really getting your fans? Are you really? So these companies now have been burned by people that they've gone after that have 10,000, 100,000 followers that really don't know really what they're doing or don't care or you know what I mean? So I've learned a lot about that, but really I think a lot of people are about the numbers and they're afraid of these companies dissing them and they have. But now I've actually spoken to companies at this place and the Content Creator Summit, and they're seeing it now. And they're really starting to look at quality over quantity.
Quantity. Yes. I knew exactly what you're saying. Yeah. I've been seeing the same thing, especially when it comes to sponsorships at this point. And they keep talking about micro influencers. So that's people between 5,000 and 50,000 followers. And I do think there is something to be said because I think when your niche is very, very clean and what you do is very clean, then you do have the right people following you versus like you'll see someone with, I see this all the time. I know plenty of people, I'm friends with plenty of people who have 100,000 to 200,000 followers and they make maybe if they're lucky 1/8 of what my company does. But like people are so busy looking at the numbers, they have no idea. They think, oh, this person must be really big. But truthfully, they don't know how to run a business or they don't know how to do the financial piece or they don't know how to garner people to get them the value they need. And so it is a really interesting thing because the metrics matter to some extent because there are certain things that you need audience wise. But I think it's fascinating because what you're saying is not anything that I don't think all of us know, which is in a lot of ways, it's a vanity metric. There's a lot of ego sometimes, evolving around those numbers. So it's a really interesting thing. Do you follow like your own like podcast numbers? Do you kind of like pay attention to your downloads for that?
Those are the numbers I do like to pay attention to. And even like there's a Chartable too that will, give you weekly updates on where you're at on the Apple charts and all the different platforms and stuff like that. And even my own hosting company is very good at that. So yeah, I do enjoy following that. And then it also is a reason why I do still continue to do it, to do the podcast.
Those numbers tend to be a little more secretive though, which is very interesting because most people don't realize like how good or big a podcast is, how many downloads they're getting. Also that the metrics on those are so different because just because you have 10,000 followers on Instagram doesn't mean that more than 200 people has seen your stuff, right? Versus on a podcast, you have 200 people see your stuff and you know that they've listened for a long time to your stuff. So it's a totally different audience. Like 200 on a podcast feels very different than 200 on like an Instagram post. Would you agree?
Yes, I totally agree with that. And and then the metrics also are different. Like Chartable's different than other platforms' numbers. And sometimes they're based on different types of metrics. And like for mine, Buzzsprout, it's like the number of unique downloads. So that's a bit of a truer a number of what, you're really getting as far as, people who listen and keep listening. And, recently in this past season, I exceeded 100,000 over 100,000 downloads, which took me 6 seasons, but I'm also only like 16 episodes a season bi-weekly when it's running full time. So I don't know. I feel like, getting 1,800 to 2,000 downloads a month while I'm in my season is pretty good for an independent podcaster who does everything, scheduling, recording, editing.
Yeah. Do you find that it's pretty wearing to do all of those things yourself? Or do you feel like if you're like someone who like really wants to have a podcast, would you ever encourage them to do it, even though it's a lot of work?
Have you been dreaming of earning a master's degree or a design certificate that could lead you to launch your very own business? The University of Arts and Design has unique programs where you not only learn how to design, but how not to be a starving artist, which is why I created it. Join us in our upcoming Design Your Future event. Visit uad.education/designyourfuture to learn more about our students, discover the courses that we offer, and find out more about how you can become part of something truly unique in the university experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, people have done that too, and then they fall off. So you're not going to know unless you try. And the one thing that I can say, and I've said this a lot on my podcast because it took me 4 years to actually like publish an episode. I researched everything on it, the microphone, I got all this stuff set up. I mean, I thought that I had to do it just perfectly, and you don't. So you can record with your phone. You can use GarageBand to edit. You know what I mean? Like it's just the important thing is that you just get it out there. And that's one of the things that this video course is teaching as well. They say the same thing. You could film with your phone. Just get it. Just start recording and start doing it. And then you'll find out if you really like it or not. I still really love it. The editing, I don't mind. It's all of the other stuff. The the show notes and the marketing of it.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
so
not as
that's
great.
such good advice to get people just going, right? To get them
Yeah.
actually doing it. And it's so funny because we actually have, in my company, we have a whole team who does content, right? And so we have like all this production quality. But here's the crazy thing, you guys, like we have another podcast that's our paid podcast called Design Your Life. And I literally do that one on my phone on purpose. It's less polished. It's usually I'm doing it in my bedroom and I'm just chatting while I'm doing stuff. And it's less polished on purpose because I find that people just want to hear what I'm talking about, what we're seeing in our business, the trends, and all of that stuff. And it just feels a lot more real. Not that this isn't real, but it's just less polished. And so, if that's getting on your like making it so you're not going, I would say I would really encourage you to say like, there's a ton of power in just being yourself and just doing it with whatever tools you've got.
Right. And a lot of listeners have even said that they really gravitate towards independent podcasters because they're not really always being marketed to and sold to, and that sort of thing. Like it's, for instance, my podcast is very conversational, it's long format, and I really just like to get people's stories, and of course we'll promote what they have to sell too, but it's just not okay, you've got 30 seconds and go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and sponsorships too, right? Like we don't have any ads on I don't know. Do you have ads on your show? We don't have ads on our show.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah. We don't have, we have our own ads, like, telling you guys what we've got going on, but we don't run other people's ads on our show. And we made a deliberate choice. We've been actually asked multiple times if we'd be willing to do sponsorships, and we just keep saying no. And we're going to keep saying no as long as we can. I'm not promising that one day we wouldn't, but right now we just kind of said, you know what, this is not really what we want to do. We just want to talk about design. We want to talk about, what people are working on and how it's working in their businesses and making that change. Now, this is a little bit of a segue. What did you decide to do seasons for your podcast?
What did I decide, or
why did you decide to do seasons? Because you kind of will do like a season, right? And then you'll take a pause and do another season. Talk a little bit about that.
Because the first year that I was doing this, I just kept putting out episodes like all year long. And then by the end of the first year, I was spent. I was just like, I still want to do this, but there's got to be a better way. And then I saw some other podcasts like Serial, the big ones. They do seasons. So I'm like, I can do seasons. I don't have to be out there every single week or every other week all year round. And so, yeah, that's how I did it. And then some podcasts too, like they call a season like every 4 episodes or every, but they take a 2-week break and then they're back. So my other thing was the way I keep track of my years of podcasting is that I break up the year into a first half and a second half of the seasons, 8 episodes in the first half, 8 in the second half. And so up in the fall, it's going to be my 7th season, which means it's my 7th year. So I don't have inflated like, oh, I got 24 seasons because I go by years. This is like the seventh year and this is the seventh season. So yeah, I break it up because around the holidays in the winter, you just need that break. And then I also batch record. So in January, I'm recording for the second half of the season. In August, I'm batch recording for the first half of the season. So I've kind of like figured this out on my own as I go, what works for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What I love here, if you guys are listening in to really like trying to pull some gems from this, there's a couple. First of all, is that if you start something and you don't like the way it's done or you want to change it, just change it, which is what you did. And most people feel like
Mhm.
they have to stick to something the whole time. And so that's why they're nervous to start it or they start it and then they feel like they're stuck. But you can totally change it. And then the second thing, sorry, I'm trying to remember what you said. I had two things that I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good, you guys. Is batch recording
Yeah.
that like it's not like you have to be making episodes every week for that week. Like that's not the way this works.
Yeah. And when I batch record with guests, sometimes I'll do solo episodes, which I will record closer to the time I release it. And then I also have this chit chat segment that I will record more close to the time I publish, like the week before I publish it. But that batch with the guests are really important because it really saves a lot of time. And because I did do it the other way too, where we record the guest and then have to edit, do all this stuff, and then publish it, and then it's just a whole bunch of work. All you know what I mean? Like it just takes up forever. So yeah, the
Yeah.
batch recording is really great.
Okay, so we do need to wrap up here, but I have to ask you because I've gotten asked this as before. Podcast is an odd medium for those of us in design because we're in a visual field. So podcasting is actually a really interesting place. As you are, you're doing interior design work and now you're like really digging into patterns and all these different things in the quilting and the clothing industry and so forth. Like, how do you feel that podcast still is a relevant medium for these types of things?
Well, it's a good question because I've evaluated that this year and I have already started to do more video podcasts. So YouTube just this past year has allowed audio podcasts to be RSS fed into YouTube, the platform. So all of my back history, a backlog of episodes are now on YouTube, even though they're audio. And then I'm I think video is in the future and people do want to see more video, but there's also that audience that, I've asked them and they're like, I don't have time to watch something. I love to hear your voice. So there is still that. I don't think video is ever gonna audio podcasting is not gonna go away because there's still that audience for it. And it's so mobile and you can listen to it in your car, you can listen to it while you're cooking. You know what I mean? It's very flexible. So, and even with decorating, I do, it's make and decorate. So I do talk about decorating, give tips and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's just, I think the more that you are talking to people, you can describe things fairly decently and get better at it. And then that's what show notes are for. You can post the pictures of what you're talking about.
Yeah, so good. Um, I would love to know, I mean, because you're in the middle of it right now. Like you're kind of in this interesting transition phase as you're kind of going after your hobby and passion. Advice for those who are new to the business of creativity, like what kind of advice would you give them if they're just getting started and they're worried about whatever it is, whether they're making patterns, like quilt patterns, clothing patterns, whether they're making embroidery patterns or whatever they're doing. Like what kind of advice would you give to them as they're getting started?
Well, I guess a couple things come to my mind, and one of them is that um, there is no one perfect way to do this. You really have to try several things and go with what works for you, even if other people are telling you, no, 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 you can't do it like that. You can because it's your business, it's you. This is your thing. And then the other thing is to ask for help when you need it. And it's not a failure on your part. It's not like inferiority on your part either. That's how do you think like the biggest people out there creative wise got there? They asked for help.
Yeah. Well, it's just so fascinating because I've gotten really into Martha Stewart again. I've been watching her Martha Stewart Cooks, and the number of times she actually does none of the cooking. Like she has someone there, and the show is she's just basically hosting. The other person is doing all the cooking.
Hmm.
And really when you start thinking about it, you're like, oh, like all the best people I see out there, they're okay with letting someone else also be the star or give information or educate. And they're just helping, by giving it on their platform. I think about all the biggest CEOs I know, it's because they have a really good team of people who know what they're
Hmm.
doing, right? And that asking for help component, when you're just an individual, you almost need it more than anybody else. Like
Hmm.
you need to be asking all the time, how can I get the right people in my business or in my life to make sure that I can do my creative dreams?
And if they're not willing to share with you, then move on because there are so many people that are willing to share and are generous. And then, I feel like I need to pass it on and share, with other people because some people have shared with me and I really appreciate that and respect that. And it's funny because sometimes the the biggest names are the most generous and they don't even have the time. And then some of the, smaller ones that think they're all that have no time for you. So,
Yeah, I find that all the time. And then also, like, don't be upset if someone's too busy, right? Like, because
mhm.
there's like lots of people out there you can glean information from. But yeah, it's just fascinating to me. I was just thinking the other day because Mariana, who checks our DMs, sent me a thing saying, hey, this college student is asking a couple of interview questions. Any chance you can answer? I'm like, yeah, I can totally do it. I'll just do it through the DMs. I don't have a lot of time to do a whole interview with them just because things are too busy. But they asked a couple of questions via DM, and I'm like, yeah, I can figure out a way to kind of like fit that in and tell this
Mhm.
college student what they need to do. And a lot of times people will never even ask me, even though I'm super happy to share, just because they think, oh, like Carina won't give that information away. It's
Mhm.
amazing the amount of information that I'm like, here you go. And it's because you hope that people will take it and actually do something with it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You want other people to succeed with you, and the there's room for everyone, and the more the merrier.
There is absolutely room for everyone. People don't really believe that, but like the more I'm in this, the more I'm kind of like, oh no, 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 there really is. Because I even amongst my own designers, I'm surprised at how there'll be two people in the same area doing totally different things. Like the look is different, the feel is different. It might even be the same like medium or product, but it just looks and feels different. And so
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you have a lot to bring to the table. So if you're here, that's such great advice, Stephanie. I really appreciate that. We're going to wrap things up, you guys. But if you love Stephanie and you love her voice, what are some places, Stephanie, that people can catch up with you?
On any podcast platform, they can find me at Make and Decorate with Stephanie, and my podcast blog page, which also has the embedded episodes in it, is at makeanddecorate.com. And Instagram is different. It's stephanie.socha.design.
Yeah. And Socha is Socha.
Right.
Yes, Socha. So make sure and go check her out. We'll make those links directly into the podcast so that you guys can go follow her. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Karina. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor.
All right, guys. Hope you have a chance to go check out more about what Stephanie is up to. And as always, I hope that you're creating and doing something wonderful. I'll see you soon.
Did you know you have access to more free design content, die cut files, and sewing patterns? Join our exclusive VIP group for free by going to designsweetcourses.com/free.